After my husband and I moved in together, his parents demanded a spare key. We need to check in whenever we want, they said. My husband gave them the key without even asking me. I just smiled and waited. 1 week later, they let themselves in, only to find themselves locked inside with someone they never expected. When Adam and I moved into our new home in Austin, Texas, I thought it was the beginning of something great. We'd been married for almost a year, and this was supposed to be our fresh start. A cozy 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Maybe a place to start a family. Then came his parents. George and Marcia were always too much, controlling and pushy. While we were dating, I noticed things. His mom would call 5 times a day about vitamins. His dad would check in during our date nights. I figured once we were married, they'd back off. I was wrong. The day after we moved in, they showed up without warning. No call, no invitation, just pulled into the driveway like they owned the place. Marcia pushed past me into the house, acting like a picky hotel guest. She handed me cheap wine and George had a printed list of home care tips, as if we were clueless. Then she sat on our couch and said, "So, when do we get our spare key?" I blinked. "Sorry, what?" George laughed like it was obvious. "Of course we need a key." "For emergencies," Marcia added, "or just to check in. Water the plants. Make sure everything's clean." I looked at Adam, expecting him to shut them down. Instead, he said, "Yeah, that makes sense," and handed them a key. I wanted to scream, but I forced a smile. "Of course," I said. "You're right." That's when I started planning. For a week, I acted like the perfect daughter-in-law. I thanked them, joked about how helpful it would be, even told them to stop by any time. But every moment I wasn't smiling at them, I was setting a trap. Step 1. I added a second lock to the door that could only be opened from the inside. Step 2. I installed a motion-activated camera in the living room. Step 3. I called my Uncle Mike. Then I waited. Exactly 1 week later, my phone buzzed. Motion detected in the living room. I opened the app and saw them, George and Marcia, walking around our house. George was snooping through the kitchen drawers. Marcia was straightening the living room. Then she started folding my laundry. Then they tried to leave, and found the door wouldn't open. I watched as George tugged at the door. Then he noticed the extra lock. His face turned red. Then the basement door opened, and in walked Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike is tall, bearded, tattooed, and a bit scary looking. He used to be in a biker gang but now owns a tattoo shop. He still looks intimidating. He walked into the room and said, "Well, well, well. What do we have here?" George froze. Marcia screamed. "What are you doing in our house?" George yelled. Mike raised an eyebrow. "Your house." "You're trespassing," Marcia shouted. Mike laughed and pulled out keys. "Funny, I live here." That's right. I had legally rented the house to Uncle Mike for the week. Paperwork and all. They had just broken into someone else's legal residence. George turned red. Marcia looked ready to faint. Mike calmly leaned against the wall. "You know what's ridiculous? Walking into someone else's house without permission." George grabbed his phone. "Call Adam." That's when my phone rang. It was Adam. "What's going on?" he asked, panicked. I smiled. "I don't know. Maybe ask your parents. They say there's some guy in the house claiming he lives there." "Not some guy. Uncle Mike." Silence. Then, "I'm coming home." When I walked in, the tension was thick. Marcia sat on the couch, arms crossed. George was fuming. Mike sipped water in the kitchen like nothing happened. "Hey babe," I said cheerfully. "What's going on?" George shoved the lease at me. "This is crap." I shrugged. "Funny, the landlord didn't think so." Marcia snapped. "You think this is cute? This game of yours? You've gone too far." I folded my arms. "Too far?" "Like walking into my house without permission." George yelled, "We have a key." Mike snorted. "Yeah, and how's that working for you?" Adam finally arrived. One look at the room and he sighed. "Jesus Christ." Marcia grabbed him. "Did you know about this?" He hesitated. "You did," she whispered. "You let her do this." He rubbed his face. "Mom." George lost it. "Give us the key back. Now." I shook my head. "No. We're family. We have a right to be here." I laughed. "No, you don't. You don't live here. You don't pay for this house. You have no right." George stepped forward. You're making a big mistake. Mike laughed. I'd love to see how this ends. George yelled at him. Mike smiled wider. Marcia tugged George's arm. Let's go. But George wouldn't budge. You'll regret this, he said to me. I looked him in the eye. No, George, you will. That night, Adam and I sat in silence. So, he said, they're going to hate you forever now. Probably. I screwed up, huh? You gave them a key without asking me. He sighed. Yeah, I get it now. I messed up. Good. We changed the locks the next day, and for a while we didn't hear a thing from them. Then, on Friday morning, I got a call from our landlord, and as soon as I picked up, I could tell something was wrong from the tone of his voice. Hey, he said. I just got a weird call from people who say they're your in-laws. My heart sank. They were asking about your lease, he went on. They were trying to get information. I sat up. What kind of information? They wanted to know if it was possible to end your lease early, he said. Actually, they asked if I'd be willing to evict you. They even offered to pay off the rest of the lease if I let them rent the place instead. I gripped my phone so hard it hurt. I knew George and Marcia could be pushy, but this was too much. Luckily, our landlord wasn't falling for it. He told them no and laughed them off. But the fact that they tried to get us kicked out of our own home, that crossed a major line. I didn't tell Adam right away, not to hide it, but because I knew he wouldn't react the way this situation needed. His parents had always had a hold over him. He was starting to see the truth about them, but I wasn't sure he was ready to fight back yet. So I decided to handle it myself. I drove straight to George and Marcia's house. Marcia opened the door and looked surprised to see me. Oh, she said with a fake smile. We weren't expecting you. Yeah, I figured, I said. Can I come in? She hesitated, then let me inside. George was lounging in the living room with a beer. He barely looked up. What do you want? He mumbled. I sat down, calm and serious. I know what you did. Marcia stiffened. What are you talking about? I looked directly at George. You tried to get us evicted. That made him sit up and put his beer down. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. I picked up my phone. Should I call the landlord and put him on speaker? They went quiet. George smirked. Let's say we did. George, Marcia gasped. She's not dumb, he told her. She already knows. I felt a cold anger take over. So the plan was to kick us out, take the house, and then what? Keep Adam close so you could control him forever. Marcia looked offended. We just wanted to be near our son. I laughed. You wanted control, and you didn't care who you hurt to get it. George scowled. You're being dramatic. I stood up. I was done. If you ever try something like this again, I said quietly, you'll regret it. Marcia went pale. Is that a threat? I smiled. Marcia, I haven't even started. Then I walked out. I hoped that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A few days later, strange things started happening. Missing packages, tipped over trash cans. Small things. But then, one night while Adam and I were watching TV, we heard a loud scraping sound outside. Adam muted the TV. Did you hear that? I nodded. We both went to the door. Adam looked through the peephole and froze. What is it? I asked. His voice was cold. My dad is outside. I looked too. George was on our porch, holding a key. But we had changed the locks. He tried the key. It didn't work. Then he banged on the door. Open the damn door, he shouted. We didn't move. He pounded again. I know you're in there. I grabbed my phone and started recording. Adam looked stunned, like he couldn't believe this was really happening. George, I said through the door, you need to leave. This is my son's house, he yelled. I have a right to be here. No, I said firmly, you don't. Suddenly, Marcia's voice came from the side of the house. Adam, honey, just open the door so we can talk. Adam was shaking. Then he said, Dad, you need to go. George hit the door hard. You're making a huge mistake. Then the backyard lights turned on. I looked and saw a shadow moving near the fence. I didn't wait. I called the police. While George kept yelling, the red and blue lights flashed outside. When the cops arrived, I stepped outside with my phone still recording. George saw the officers and quickly changed his tone. This is just a misunderstanding, he said. This is my son's house. We were just trying to talk. An officer turned to Adam. Do you know these people? Adam hesitated, then finally said, They're my parents, and they're trespassing. Marcia gasped. George's face fell. Adam had just chosen me over them. Adam stood tall. They don't live here. They don't have a key anymore. They need to leave. One cop nodded. Sir, I'm going to ask you both to leave the property. George looked like he might explode, but he didn't fight it. He just looked at Adam with a cold, bitter smile. You think you're making the right choice, he said. Adam didn't respond. George stepped closer and said, One day, you'll wake up and realize she took everything from you. But Adam didn't flinch, and in that moment I knew we had finally drawn the line. The sharp pain hit my chest. Marcia was crying, shaking her head, not able to believe what was happening. Adam, please don't let her do this to us, she begged. But Adam's face was hard as stone. She didn't do anything, he said. You did. That was the moment George lost it. His hands shook, and his face turned red with anger. You're not my son, he yelled. Then he turned and walked away. Marcia hesitated for a second, but then she ran after him, crying. They didn't look back. The cops waited until they were out of the neighborhood before they turned to us. Do you want to press charges? One of them asked. Adam shook his head. After they left, the house was silent. Adam sat on the couch, staring at the floor like the world was weighing him down. I sat beside him, not touching, not speaking, just waiting. After a long time, he sighed deeply. They hate me now. I swallowed hard. Maybe. He shook his head. No, they do. My dad. He meant it. I didn't lie to him. Yeah, he did. Adam's hands tightened into fists, and he breathed shakily. I don't know how to feel. I reached for him, and he didn't pull away. I know, I whispered. After a pause, he quietly said, I think I always knew this was coming. I didn't say anything because deep down, I think I knew too. Days went by with no calls or messages from them. Nothing. Then one morning, Adam checked his email. He froze and went pale. What's wrong? I asked, moving behind him. He didn't speak. He turned the screen toward me. It was an email from a lawyer with big letters at the top. Cease and desist order from George and Marcia. They want us to stop alienating them from their son. Adam read out loud, his voice flat. They want us to go back to normal communication. I was stunned. They're trying to make you talk to them legally? Adam let out a short, bitter laugh. Yeah, looks like it. I felt sick. They had treated him like their property for years, and now that he was finally breaking free, they were trying anything to bring him back. Adam sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. Then he closed his laptop and smiled. They're desperate, he said softly. I tilted my head. Yeah? He nodded. Yeah. For the first time in weeks, he reached for my hand. And in that moment, I knew we had won. We sent one last email, a single sentence. Do not contact us again. Then we blocked them everywhere. They tried. Oh, they tried. Fake numbers. Anonymous emails. Even a Christmas card accidentally sent to the wrong address. But we didn't respond. Slowly, they faded from our lives. It took Adam a long time to process everything. Some days were tough. Sometimes I could see the guilt creeping in. Doubt, the old instinct to obey. But one night, as we sat on the porch, looking at our quiet street, he turned to me and said, I feel free. I squeezed his hand. You are. He smiled and said, So, can we invite Uncle Mike over? I think he deserves a beer. I laughed, and for the first time in a long time, we were okay. Some people say family is forever. But the truth? Real family doesn't tie you down. Real family doesn't make you feel like you owe them everything. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away